How you doing, buddy?
Hello, you are, Cause. How are you doing, Julian? You all right?
The reappearing man of Porky's Corner is back. Second time in one day, mate. I'm all right.
Oh, mate, what can we do? You love it, don't you, kid? Hey? You love it, mate.
What do they say? I love it that much it hurts, mate. That's what it is. You've got to speak out. If we don't speak out about this stuff.
You're not the reappearing man. You just love your boxing, don't you? You know, we've had it tough, haven't we, in boxing this year, and sometimes it's frustrating, isn't it? I mean, it has effect on all of us, doesn't it? I think everybody's. I'm not going to say the word mental health because that's weak, but it has effect on everybody's self-esteem, doesn't it? I don't know. I think so. Anyway.
Yeah, I've been in it around it since I was 14, 15-year-old as an amateur. So that's like 35, 36 years. So amateur boxer, amateur coach, pro coach, pundit, whatever you want to call it. You know, not a high-level pundit. And I've been around it, and you just have to walk away from it sometimes. And for a week, I've not looked at it, I've not touched it. Saw the news today on a little WhatsApp group I'm on, and I just thought, how bad is it getting now? It seems to be scandals are just almost like weekly.
Do you think it's that there's that much money on offer that people are willing to roll the dice to cheat?
Well, if you think of this, isn't obviously in terms of performance enhancing drugs, but if you look at the
we don't know what it is to do with this one, do we? No, this test we don't know.
No, like I said, we get a scorecard. Like I said a couple of weeks ago, the Maxi Hughes scorecard, the one who had Cambosis way in front, miles in front. Now that's not bad scoring. That's not bad judging. That's corrupt. That's like as corrupt as it gets. Yeah. So you've got corruption. Corruption comes in many ways, doesn't it? It comes by the way the officiating's done. It can come by the way that some people get short notice when they get called to fights and they're overweight and the other camp know that. So they're getting as much things in their favour as possible. You get corruption with bribes, with backhanders. Look at the IBF, what happened in the early days of the IBF, cash for rankings, whereas now people are shamelessly, lobbying for their fighters to be ranked. So that's corruption. If you've got a kid who's a talented kid, he doesn't have a big promoter behind him or a well-known manager, it's corrupt the fact that he's not going to get the opportunity that some kid who's half as good as him is going to get. That's corruption. But corruption comes in many, many levels. But what we've got now is we've got cheats, out-and-out cheats, and some of them are pulled off shows. So obviously, DILLIAN White's been pulled off this show, boom, like that, no messing, you're off. And then we've got the opposite side of that, which is a young up-and-coming fighter like Conor Benn. They were fighting and battling tooth and nail to keep that show together. So there's no consistency other than the guy who's got all the money in front of him, we want to keep him. We don't believe that there's anything untoward about what's happened, and we've sat on this for months. And then we've got DILLIAN White, who I've got no love for, by the way, but we've got DILLIAN White, who's had an analytical finding, straight away, bang, is off the show.
Yeah, and
no consistency. We know
Conor Benn's situation, they defended him to ill. DILLIAN White's been thrown under a bus, hasn't he? My Eddie.
Yeah, DILLIAN White, you're off the show, you're done. You'll never be on a matchroom show ever again, irrespective of what those.
I don't think they'll have him back now. I think they're done now, them two.
Yeah, I think they've absolutely done. I mean, the love wasn't there in the last 12 to 18 months, was it? But now, like I say, I'm not defending DILLIAN White. I was attacking him this morning. I'll continue to do so. But why do you defend one guy? Vehemently defend.
Well, he's 10 years older than Conor Benn, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. So there's no.
He's no use to him now, is he?
Well, and he's definitely won't be any use to him after Anthony Joshua knocked him out again. So you've squeezed whatever blood cells are left of
DILLIAN White.
And now he's done. He's absolutely.
Well, where's he going to go now, DILLIAN White? Can he go to Bricktop after what happened with that Fury show? He can't go there, can he? Oh my God, he can't go there with Begging Ball, because Bricktop will be like, if you want to fight for me, son, you sign this.
Like I said, we don't know what the findings are. We don't know what the punishment's going to be. I suspect he won't box again, but who knows? But like we said this morning, I've got no issue. I'd kick drug cheats out of the sport, but where's the consistency? Where's the love at the moment from Matchroom? Where's the you know, remember the week of the Ben Eubank fight? You remember how Eddie was stood there? They still went through with the public workout. They still went through with all this stuff, knowing he'd adverse findings. They continue.
See, that's the thing that gets your goat, isn't it? That, isn't it?
I hate inconsistency. I don't like inconsistency. You either look 1 minute, Eddie Hearn, right? Okay, we was talking about Canelo years and years and years ago. We all saw the footage, what we were saying about Canelo and drugs cheats and the need to be out of the sport, right? We all saw that. And then we saw years after he was working with Canelo, right? There's only consistency when you're attacking someone else's fighters or when you're criticizing other people's fighters. But when it comes to your own, you're very selective about who you defend. It's a little bit like what you said about Kugan Cassius this morning. You said,
well, they've not said a word. It's been 13 hours now since the news broke. There's nothing on IFL, nothing. Why?
But what you said about
Kugan,
what you said about Kugan was all your friends in your phone book have got massive followings. These people,
the ones that he said in that interview, he reeled them all off. I'm not going to reel it again, but well, he said Dillian Whyte, Eddie, Joshua, Dave Allen, Tyson Fury, and Derek Chisora. They're all them that do views. I didn't hear Sean Yaxley or Clark Smith or from Joe Gallagher's gym, or I didn't hear Josh Warrington or Lee Wood or any of them guys. Did you? All I heard was, you know, that lot. And if
what I heard,
he always comes out to defend them when anything happens, doesn't he? Or don't say out if they've done not wrong. And he's done that again. This is what happens when you're not neutral, when you're in bed with them. It's like me. I'd like to think I'm neutral. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, it's like they said, the Kugan thing. The seven people you mentioned this morning who he loves and he's got.
Who he's in bed with?
Four of those had tested positive for adverse findings.
Tyson Fury, Billy Joe, Dillian Whyte, and who's the other one?
Conor Ben.
So 4 of them 7 are dope cheats. And Dillian Whyte has not, Kugan, when it came out about him, they went silent. Right? So how is he the go-to guy for boxing news? They can't be. That's why they're on the slide. That's why they're now in bed with these misfits, because for them, it's not about boxing. It's about that and paying the properties off that they've got in it and all that nonsense. It's about a means to an end in it, because without this, what's he going to do? He's not an actor, is he? He's not like me. You can't spin 5 or 6 plates at the same time, can he? Can't do that, can they?
He's a prize fighter. He's a prize fighter. It's all he can do. It's all he can do.
What?
Prize fighting. It's all he can do, and that's fine.
Oh, Kugan.
No, sorry, I'm on about Dillian. But yeah, Kugan, this is what Kugan does, isn't it? It's like his social media. IFL's made him an absolute fortune. And like you say, there's no undercard fighters in his phone book. There's no guys who, if you bring nothing, I don't trust you.
Oh, his other mates, Davey Day and Joe Fournier. One's supposed to have loads of dough, and Davey Day does views, doesn't he? So they're his mates.
Yeah, it's like I say, you know, it's not about Kugan, but ultimately, IFL haven't done anything yet about this. But I'll tell you something as well about this show. I erroneously said I must have read. Let me look at this. Right, I must have read this differently this morning, but I thought they were going to cancel the show. I read it quickly. I got 6 minutes to get ready. But ultimately, I think they should cancel the show, and I'll tell you why. Have you seen this? Have you looked at this show from top to bottom?
They've got Campbell Hansa Fomatin on it. They've got the Elmer Fudd, Johnny Fisher's son, and it Bosch Chinese eating man. Elmer Fudd's on. He's fighting for an area belt in the Elmer Fudd.
It's a dreadful. So the guy who Johnny Fisher's fighting, Harry Armstrong, who's got like no power, no punching power whatsoever, is not being disrespectful. He's very low level. He's very, very low level, and he's never beaten.
He's shite.
He's never beat a winning fighter. He's never beat a winning fighter. He's fought one guy who's any good, Jamie TKV, who beat him easily. Right? He can't fight. So this is a win for Johnny Fisher against the guy who, on paper, looks like he's got a decent record. So if you look at, for example, George Liddard, who's a prospect, I get that, right? He's on the bill. He's fighting a guy who's got a good-looking record, 5-1. If you look at that record, he lost his debut to a kid who was 0-4. He got beat by a kid who'd never won a fight. So that's how good his opponent is. And if you look through the rankings, you got the Chisora-Washington fight, which I'm assuming one of those is going to step in and fight AJ. So that fight's gone. Now, we know about Chisora, right? We know about that in backwards. Washington's nearly 42. He's 41-year-old, and he's been stopped 5 times in his last 7 fights.
20 months inactive.
So neither Chisora or Washington are remotely a credible fighter.
And they're not even pay-per-view credible. They mind non-pay-per-view because they're saying it might be non-pay-per-view if it's them now, aren't they?
Well, the only way that this becomes credible is if Filip Hrgović steps up, because he's acceptable. I think we agree.
They'll not take him. He might ice him.
Well, but I think we agree that would be all right, we'll pay for that.
That's the pay-per-view.
That's a pay-per-view fight. You get away with that. But you can't get away with...
What about Martin McCauley?
Why? Well, he's not going to get the call, is he? I mean, wow.
Well, Joshua.
I mean, McCauley's not going to get the phone call, is he? He's too dangerous.
He's in mix. He's ranked.
But so
Billy Nelson would take that fight in an heartbeat. What's he got? A week? Billy
Nelson would take it.
Billy Nelson will take that in an heartbeat. And do you know what? Billy Nelson might pull that off with him.
And I bet Billy Nelson wouldn't ask for silly money either.
No, because Billy would just want to beat me, because he's like when they were riding high with Luis Ortiz, it's the Cuban kid. They were like blockers, they kept he were there to protect Joshua, and they're not going to put Ortiz in with him then. They might now. I've heard his name mentioned today, but they'll not put Martin McCauley in with him, will they? Because he's the complete fighter if you watch. I mean, fair enough. The only problem is he doesn't do views, he's not engaging, blah de blah. But he can fight, can't he?
Well, therein lies the problem. So this is what I'm saying. So if you look at that show and you make an assumption that either Chisora or Washington's going to fight AJ, that becomes a horrendous show, doesn't it?
Horrendous. What do you think DAZN are thinking about? Eddie, you're having a mare.
It's terrible. So I said, but I thought they were going to scrap the show, but they might do yet, I mean, they might not, but what's the salvage of a show that the only attraction for anybody who's remotely a boxing fan is AJ against White? I don't think it's a great fight, but a lot of people want to see that because AJ and Dillian White, they've got history. They bring the antics. White brings the antics. He's gone, rightly so. He's a drugs cheat. He's gone, alleged 3-time drugs cheat. So he's out. But what's going to happen now to that show? It's an awful show, and the only thing worth watching was the main event. Don't talk to me about Hrgović and Dempsey.
Oh, you were going to mention Campbell, Hands of Foam.
Well, I will mention. I'll mention Campbell Hatton in terms of he's got to be brought along slowly, but he's strangely been fighting non-punchers all the way through his career. And I'll tell you what that means. That means they know he's probably been chinned a couple of times in sparring by decent level kids. So every time you see a guy who's coming through the ranks fighting non-punchers, and this guy's a complete non-puncher who's fighting and he's limited, there's a problem with the whiskers on that fighter.
They're going to milk him, aren't they? He'll be 20-0 next year, Campbell Hatton.
Yeah, and I've not seen any improvement. He's got faster, fitter, a little bit stronger, but technically he's all over the place. He can't slip a shot, block a shot, roll a shot, pivot off a shot. He's not great. That's not his fault, but you can't milk him for much longer. You can't. But it's another non-puncher who Campbell Hatton's fighting, and we're going to hear how he's improving massively. But there's a reason. There's a reason they're avoiding even journeyman. If you get a journeyman sometimes who's won 7 and he's knocked 6 out, and he might have lost 20 fights, but he can crack. Like OJ Abrams had a losing record. Remember OJ Abrams?
Arnold Boone could crack, couldn't he?
Exactly. So these guys,
Andre Ward, didn't he?
these guys could crack. So, and so Campbell Hatton for anybody who's remotely got any power, and that's because they will know he's been done over.
Conor Benham, though, has he fought anybody who can? He just
we know again because there's a problem with the whiskers, isn't there? And this is so Campbell Hatton, learning fight, no issue with that. He should be on a VIP show and on TV, but it is what it is.
You mean a Steve Wood show?
It's Steve Wood show, your VIP. This is but anyway, this is a very, very poor show. What's just got even worse. It's what are you actually salvaging? What are you salvaging?
What it is, it reminds me of, right, this reminds me of seeing a boat, right, sinking with all holes in it, and a rowing boat, like
plugging it.
If you go into Doncaster, there's Kirk Sander, you go out on a rowing boats, and you're like, you got your legs and what, and Eddie's like that, in it, with all fingers all over the place, and it's just coming through, and all the chickens are coming home to roost. That's what's happening. And do you know what? Chris Eubank Senior will be knocking one out now. Pop, bang.
Oh, absolutely. It's awful. And like I said earlier, I won't change my mind. This is, you run the risk when you put guys on who are perennial drugs cheats. You run the risk of at any point they could pop. Yeah. At any point they could pop, and that's what's happened. And
but why is it they don't admit it when they pop?
They never do, because listen, this is the thing, isn't it? VADA, UCAD, whoever's looking at this, right? We know it's VADA in this instance. If it's something on the banned list, as I said earlier, it's not cough medicine, is it? It's not cocodamol. It's not, it's not Bonjela. This, you know what I'm saying? He's busted for something that's on the banned list, and it's on the banned list because it's performance enhancing. That's how they make it on the banned list.
You know what Dennis used to say to fighters? He used to say, what have you got wrote down? What you've had? What have you had today to eat? Every now and then, and they'd go, oh, I've had this. You go, well, have you wrote it down? What you've had? What jar it's at? No, where you got? No, that's what I've had. Why are you not writing it down? We used to say that all the time.
Well, do you know what I would do?
To me, ask Liam Cameron what he's had to eat, what they wrote down. None of them used to do it, because they're not academic, are they? And
right. Okay. What do we see? What's consistent, right? Conor Benn, Dillian Whyte. Whenever you get a high-profile fight, think of the recent one. I've not seen the fight, but think of Shakur Stevenson, or think of all these elite fighters. Whenever you're watching the build-up, we got Spence and Crawford. What you see is the fighters in camp, sat down at the table, on these 24/7 programs, and in the background they've got a nutritionist who's preparing all the protein drinks. They've got a chef who's preparing all the meals. These are high-level guys who are getting paid millions of pounds, and you got experts preparing every single morsel that goes in your mouth.
Yeah.
So what Dillian Whyte and Conor Benn should be doing is they should be nailing them to a wall and saying, what are you giving me? Because they don't prepare their own meals. Conor Benn doesn't stand in the kitchen with a frying pan and get the chicken bits out. Everything they do is prepared for them by so-called experts, nutritionists, S&C coaches, dietitians, Michelin star chefs. These are experts who know all about food, just like a banker knows about money. They're experts. So why are they continually popping?
What I want to know is if all these experts are dealing with everything behind the scenes and they're still popping, they're cheating. But there is a way around it. Get rid of these experts and just cook your own food like fighters used to do in the day. Marvin Hagler used to cook his own food, and he wasn't a bad fighter, was he? Marvin Hagler. He used to have them Petrocellas. They'd all be in camp and they'd all take it in turns to cook. They'd have chicken and fish and veg and salad, porridge and water and all that. It's not rocket science. Julian, they're making it all complicated. It's doing me
There's nothing scientific about, as we said earlier, when Sykes used to live with us, we prepared his drinks and his food. He had 6 tests for his British title fights, and 6 times he was clean. It's as simple as that, because we knew everything what went through his mouth. Everything. We used to bloody tell him what time to get up for a run. We used to do this, we used to that. And they're making it complicated. So do I blame Dillian Whyte? or is he unwittingly taking something that he's got no idea about? Are these fighters doing what the nutritionists tell them to do, and then 10 minutes later they're running to the corner shop and they're taking all this stuff? Or are they knowingly juicing and they're on cycles, very, very confident that they're going to bypass, and they just get it wrong? They get the timing wrong.
Well, that's why I think they're not rocket scientists, are they, boxers? And they're not going to admit it, are they? And Dylan White and Conor Benn are millionaires, aren't they? So they're not. They don't really. They're like, they think they're above everybody, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, definitely.
Well, what has Dylan White won? What has he won? We was mentioning it. He's won note, has he? He's won a British, right? And didn't defend it. Conor Benn has won nothing. He ain't got a belt, has he? So one's got a belt, one ain't got a belt. You know, so why are we all getting bent out of shape about him?
Because the matchroom fighters, and we are told repeatedly that they are world-class operators and they are elite. That's what we're told. We know it's not true, but the mass market who consumes this stuff believes it, and it becomes a much bigger story when I just say you're banned. But listen, this is because these are main eventers. They shouldn't be main eventers. They are main eventers, and many times Dillian White's been the A side. He wasn't going to be next week, but many times he's been the A side. Conor Benn's always been the A side ever since he turned over. Yeah. How have they got to that position? Well, one's called Ben, yeah, and the other one, maybe we've just got a lack of heavyweights domestically who to talk about. So White's had, how many did you say? 7 pay-per-views, 6 pay-per-views?
More than that.
Yeah, maybe more. I mean, how do you get to this stage?
Like I think it's about 7, isn't it? Yeah, or 8.
Probably more than Mike Tyson had, you know what I mean?
Is it 8 with BT one? He had a BT one, didn't he? A pay-per-view, didn't he? I don't know. It's 7, 8 pay-per-view. It's a lot in it. Frotch only had 3, didn't he? And he brought it back.
So there's a lot at stake to get this wrong 3 times, isn't there?
Well, didn't he have a failure in K1 apparently, or was it as an amateur? I'm sure he had a failure before we had his in here. No,
I think I heard. I don't know if it's true. He failed for a banned substance when it was an amateur, but I don't know if it was categorized as performance enhancing. I don't know the details, but we do know early on.
We do know about 3 though, don't we?
Yeah, we
know about the one before Eddie got him. He did the 2-year ban. We know about the Rivers one, which were a weighty pot B sample. That all went away into like a mystery or whatever, and then it was like it just David Copper box, wasn't it, on that one? And what's the other one? This one, Joshua fight. We know about 3, but I've had people saying no, it's 4 all day long in my emails and on comment section.
And it's 4.
Russell, you've got it wrong. It's 4. So I'm going, well, is it 4? Is it 3? I don't know. Can somebody tell me? Has Dylan White failed in K1 or as an amateur? If it's 3 or 4, it's a cheat anyway.
Well, one's too many, isn't it?
There you go.
One's too many.
Oh, so that's him done now with Matchroom. They're not going to, after all this week, Conor Benn and drugs, and they're going to wash their hands in. It's not as if he's 23, is it? Yeah,
it doesn't matter what he's. What finding they've got, it's something that's banned. It doesn't matter what it is. It's a banned substance. He's done. He's effectively, for all intents and purposes, he's done, and rightly so. I've always viewed him
as his
mouthpiece,
sporting icons. I've been told you're having a full meltdown on social media. Pop, pop, bang, because he's pop, pop, popped.
I don't know who he is.
So, well, I don't know who he is.
I don't follow a lot of it, as you know. I don't know.
Mouthpiece, isn't it? Dylan White's mouthpiece. His man's popped yet again. How are you going to spin that one?
They will do. They'll spin it. They'll never admit it. They'll say, "Do you know what? One failed test. Suspicious. 2, 3, 4. Come on." What we doing here? Nonsense.
I know. Who's running showy? Do they think we're lollipops? Eh?
Most people must think the average person's pretty stupid. Well, not what. Listen, it's the one sport. You know, look at cycling and all these, athletics. It's dirty, but it's the one sport, boxing or MMA, when you get combat athletes who test positive. It's despicable. It's absolutely despicable, because your intent, obviously, is to temporarily knock someone out, hit someone, hurt them, and temporarily knock someone out. When you're doing that with loaded gloves, it's as low as it gets. It don't get any lower.
Yeah. What do you think the answer is for this, Julian? Do you think that fighters should just write everything down that they've had, so when they come and grab and say, "Right, what have you had today?" Well, you had a test on Monday, 3 weeks ago on a Monday, and you passed that. So, and you failed today, 20 days later. So, can you give me a menu as what you've had for the last 20 days? What have you been eating? Let's see your diet sheet. And where's the receipts and all that? Are we going to go down that route, or are they just going to hide behind lawyers and say, no, testing process is a load of shit?
Well, they should be doing this anyway.
You've contaminated my test, and blah, blah, blah. Do you think that's what they'll do?
They should be doing it anyway. Anybody who's any kind of high-level athlete in any sport should have a controlled diet, controlled nutrition, and they should keep records of what they're eating. I've just been to Morrison's this morning. I've got a receipt, so I know what's going in my and my family's mouths for the next couple of weeks. So why do these people who know that they can be called upon to be tested, either voluntary or mandatory, as a part of the fight, why are these people busting? How are they getting it wrong? I mean, it's what everybody knows. Okay, I was thinking about this as I was down at the gym earlier on. And I was thinking about, I was thinking about Alan Minter. The reason I was thinking about Alan Minter is he was middleweight champion of the world, right? He'd got a flat chest. He didn't have big arms on him or shoulders. He was a fit guy, he didn't have much weight on him.
More like middleweight, really, what he fighting at.
I was thinking about Alan Minter, and I was just thinking then, I started to think about, Jimmy Cable and just all these fighters, these kind of
Pat Cowdell, Jimmy McDonald.
These guys, yeah. So I was thinking about, let's say, for example, Pat Cowdell. You stand Pat Cowdell at 9 stone 4.
Colin Jones.
Next to Joe Cordina. Let's use Joe Cordina as an example. You stand Pat Cowdell, brilliant fighter, fought for the world title twice, gave Sanchez an absolute great 15-rounder, a master craftsman. Think about Pat Cowdell. The guy looked like a gust of wind would blow him over, didn't it? And then think of
Jimmy McDonald.
Yeah, think of Joe Cordina, right? So are we so advanced in our training? And I'm not calling Joe Cordina out before somebody jumps down my throat, but are we so advanced now in what we know about the human body that fighters look 3 times bigger at a specific weight? Is that how much?
Well, if we're going to judge it by that, is it because of the science? I mean, look at the size of Terry Harper. She's as big as a house. At the moment, shredded house.
When she moved up to light middleweight, and I saw a photo of her on the fight week, she looked massive. She looked like a middleweight. Her arms and shoulders were huge. And I was just thinking, how the hell did you used to get down to 9 stone 9? How the hell did you do it?
Well, maybe Terry Harper's on the special juices blend of nuts and berries.
Listen, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but what I'm saying is that why are fighters? Why do they look so different now? Is it just S&C?
Nah, I don't think it's that. I just think there's more in food, isn't there? And probably eating more or something. I don't know. I
think it's, well, listen.
Anthony Yard's a big light heavyweight, isn't he? He looks like a cruiserweight, doesn't he, Anthony Yard, doesn't he? Look at his body next to Clinton Woods, but Clinton Woods would light him up, wouldn't he?
But what I'm saying is, how are they getting these bodybuilders' physiques? We know how, because they're all, not all, a lot of fighters now, a lot of athletes, the testing.
Yeah.
They've got adverse findings, and that's not saying everybody is, but if you
finding ways round it, aren't they? Most of them.
Yeah, if you talk to the experts, okay, let's think of Dr. Saj Mahat. What's he called? Sajid.
He's back on scene now, Usman.
Sajid Usman, an expert. He said it's the easiest thing in the world. So this is Conor Benn's alleged doctor and Tyson Fury's apparent doctor. I have no idea. He said, right, it's the easiest thing to bypass the tests. You'd have to be, to phrase him, you'd have to be an idiot to test positive for performance-enhancing drugs. So it must be either the testing is so poor or so infrequent because of the costs, or the juices that they're doing and the way they're flushing it out is so fantastically advanced. I don't know. But if you listen to people involved in boxing, they say a load of people are on it, a load of people are doing it. And do you know what? This is going back, this is slightly different now, but when I was coaching and into boxing, when I started getting into pros in early 2000, when I was working with a pro called Mally McIver. Mally was just a strong lad, but skinny, didn't have much about him physically, wasn't a big puncher, did it the hard way, did it the natural way, did it the clean way. But what I started noticing in gyms in the Northwest were fighters whose strength, because you got to think about it, you do a lot of sparring, McIver, Sykes, you start taking these kids around the gyms. I'm not suggesting all of them, by the way. I started noticing fighters were looking so much stronger. Not a lot of technique, but looking so much stronger. Eye hands, blocking shots, physically hard to move. And Gary had sparred a few kids, and Mally had sparred a few kids, and some of the other kids that were training with us say, he's strong, him. And they'd always say, he wasn't that good, but God, he was strong. And when you think back, you start to question even then. I'm not suggesting a lot of fighters, but you start to question certain fighters. And then I start to think back, and I remember certain fighters who seen them in the gym with the tops off after sparring, who my guys would spar with. Backs like that, sweat rashes, bit bad acne on the back. And you start to look at that. One fighter in particular, I remember, who was, I had suspicions back at the time. I'm going back 15 years, maybe 20 years. And I had suspicions back in the time. And when you look now, you think, do you know what? The signs were there. The signs were there. Kids who weren't that great. And then going quite a high level based on just fitness.
Yeah.
And it just makes you wonder. I'm not suggesting everybody in every gym is doing something. That's definitely not the case. It absolutely is not the case. But you always look at some fighters, and like I said, I've been around Northwest boxing for a long time, and you just see certain fighters and you go, yeah. And I remember I said this to you before that two friends of mine who were good coaches, good level ABA coaches, they started talking about this in the ABAs, in the senior ABAs. There were kids then who they were talking about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they were really suspicious of. I'm talking England kids, GB kids. They were really suspicious of them. And it leaves a real bad taste. And then so I look back now, I look back on my professional coaching career, which lasted about 20 years, not end to end, I'd have breaks in between. And I start to think back to those instances and then you get suspicious, don't you? Sometimes you might even get suspicious of fighters who were clean, which is unfair. Yeah. But you're like, were they on it? Was that gym doing it? And you start to ask
the question. You never get to the bottom of it, though, because nobody admits it. And even when they're caught, the screen blue murder, even if they get banned, they're still in. I haven't heard one admit it yet.
It's some dirty things.
It's a bad thing to admit in it.
Yeah, you're never going to admit something like that, are you? It just doesn't happen.
Because it means you tried to kill somebody, doesn't it, if you admit taking it, so they won't ever admit it. So
yeah, it's a despicable thing.
Blue murder, because they don't want to be known as a murderer or as an attempt murderer, because that's what it is. So they play this, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. They do a shaggy, don't they? But they're guilty, but they can't admit it, because somebody might say, hey, you, bang, one night, taking performance enhancing drugs. They might see you in a nightclub and just slot you. Or,
I don't get it. I don't get, I always say this, man in the mirror. I don't know how you can look at your career. You get to the end of your career. Yeah, you might have made 10, 15 million. But if you look in a mirror, and you said, you know what? I actually cheated. I cheated. I were on the gear throughout most of my pro career. How could you be proud of those accomplishments?
Well, look at the top 10 now. You've got Tyson Fury, Dillian White. There's Povetkin's been done, hasn't he?
Ortiz.
Well, he's history now, isn't it? Ortiz has been done. What Alinius done, I'm not sure about him. So
Big Baby Miller might not be top
10.
Baby
Miller, he might not be in top 10, but he's been done 3 times, hasn't he? We can go on forever and ever, but Eddie's worked with all of them, hasn't he? Or tried to work with them. Or he hasn't worked with Tyson, but he's tried to, hasn't he?
Work with anybody, will Eddie? He don't care.
Well, he worked with Dylan
So-
White. Backfired
So
on him.
there's got to be an acknowledgement now, and I wonder what the fallout's going to be this week. I wonder what the pundits and the authorities are actually going to say, or they're just going to say it's just another one. We'll deal with
Well,
it.
the Gad's come out, hasn't it? And he's sat on fence. Dave Corwell and Sam Jones, they've all had plenty to say, but they're telling us everything, but showing us nothing. They've had plenty to say, but they've said no, if you know what I mean, kind of thing. They're waiting. We're waiting. Look, at the end of the day,
one line.
it's in his system. They all jump down Conor Ben's throat. It's in your system. Well, I want to see same energy for Dylan White because it's not his first rodeo, is it?
Yeah, and that's what I want to see. I want to see people rush to defend Dillian.
I want to see IFL. Good knock on Dylan White's door and say, Dylan, come on, what's going on here? You mind just going missing? Cougs. Tony Bellew. Silence is golden. Tony.
Once again. I want to see people defend Dillian White. I wouldn't defend him because I think he's a proven drugs cheat, and that's been the history of him. But I want to see the same defense for him. I want to see consistency.
Yeah, we want to see Dylan White defended by all these instead of them throwing him under a bus because he's 30, pushing 36 and shot to bits. Conor Ben's at the other end of his career. He's got 10 years worth of earning power, hasn't he?
I want Eddie Hearn and Frank Smith to come on today and to say, do you know what? I don't know what it is. We're going to get to the bottom of it. But I've spoke to Dillian and I believe him because this guy's headlined so many of their shows and made a lot of money for them over the years. I want them to defend Dillian White. That's what I want.
Not throw him under the bus. So, all right. Well, listen, Julian, it's been a pleasure. We've had you twice on today. The reappearing man.
Porky's Corner's reappearing man is back.
The Tony Bellew of the YouTube world. Pop, pop, bang.
Okay, buddy.
Have a good holiday. When do you go?
I don't go till Monday, and Kelsey's mate's going to come and stay, look after George, and he'll have a house to himself, mate. So it's going to be, we're going to get away for 10 days, get a bit of sun, and see what comes out of the next week or two, mate. Keep me informed, because like I say, I'm not looking for this stuff now, but we shall see. Chickens are coming home to roost right now, aren't they, in boxing?
Yeah, ain't it funny, isn't it? And everything I said is coming true, and they're all maybe all might start wanting to believe in the Dark Destroyer now.
And all these other YouTube channels, they're spineless, aren't they? Even the only ones, the irony is, the only ones who tell it as it is, apart from you, don't actually show the face.
Yeah, Ultra Tech and who's the other one? Boxing Asylum.
If you show your face, if you show your face, if you like you and I do, you're going to say
they should do, because they're good boxing channels.
Yep. Listen, Conor Ben, Dillian White could splat me all over the place, but if Conor Ben bumped into me and says, "Seen you on Porky's Corner," I say, "Yeah, you're a drugs cheat."
Yeah, and I'd say the same.
And he could knock me out then. Absolutely fine.
All right. Well, you take care.
You take care, buddy.
Cheers, Julian. Bye-bye.
Bye, mate.
Let's have a look. Well, I enjoyed that with Julian. 9:15 on a Saturday. I've got Andy from Aberdeen coming on at 10. So I'll finish that at about 11:15. Get it out for 11. So there's another one to come after this. We've got to keep my average up, because now that I'm on wagon, I've got in my life. Got no in my life, have I? I've got no going for myself now, have I? Got no to look forward to. I've got a glass of water over there and an apple. All right. Peace out. MI5 are not watching me from the moon. No, it's MFI who are after me for that kitchen and that paper for my caravan. Pop, pop, bang.